Good evening. It's 5:45, and I think I'm getting the knack and the hang of this. Though, wait, let me hit the lightning. I always say hallelujah. Anyway, I finally have my voice back, which for those of you who know me, God, to have laryngitis to some people would be a blessing. For me, it was most challenging when the doctor said, don't talk. Keep your mouth shut. Anyway, I managed to get through. One other thing is, I don't understand this. I would go to my site, my story, and it would say 39 viewers to last night. And then I go to my Facebook page, and it has 3 other people who are always doing something, but they weren't part of my viewers. So if I add 3 to 39, that meant 42. Not bad, considering I'm not advertising, but I don't understand the difference, and I don't really care. If you want to come on, come on. All my posts will remain forever. I'm not going to be doing little selfies, probably. I'm going to be doing this every night, but I'm not going to be taking up space with just a picture. When I go on, it's because I want to read from my book. So I have read the cover, the back cover, and I have read the preface, and I've read chapter 1. Now I'm not going to be rereading my book. I'm not doing that. So you will have to go to my Facebook page, and you can read. I think I've done 6 or 7 or 8, and you can go to the back and then come up. But it's very important that I stay on my plan, the thing I'm supposed to do for me. For those of you who want to, I got a wonderful comment from my friend Lucy that she loved the fact that I would stop in the middle of my readings and expound on something either before or during what I was talking about, or even afterwards. And she liked that because it gave clarity. And if you're reading your Audible, let's say professionally, they won't let you, you don't do that. You can't stop after a first paragraph and say, let me back up and explain that to you. It's not how it works. They want you to read it. They may do some side things later, but I'm not doing it that way. I want to be able to get you a little caught up, and then I want to take you where I am right now, and then just continue through the book. Once I've read my book, I'll go back then and do it, because I have to keep doing it. As I always say, share with your friends. I know there are people watching. I know there are people listening. And I know there are people who care. There's also people who need what I have to say without charging them hundreds of dollars an hour for therapy. Been there, done that. Not me personally, my late husband. So what I started off with was, as many of you know my story, I was married to a bisexual man who passed away from AIDS in 1994 before they had all these marvelous and incredible medications that can keep you alive so long. So he suffered, but for 25 years I had Dr. Jeffrey A. Mintz in my life. And I still miss him, and I still love him, and nothing's going to ever change that. And so we were married because I got pregnant. Slept with everybody you could want, but one time with him, boy, got pregnant, little town, got married, did the right thing, 1969, and then right on his birthday, when I was giving him a birthday party, I miscarried, had a D&C, went back to work at the VA hospital as a hygienist that Monday. Nobody ever knew. We went on our honeymoon 4 months later, and he proceeds to tell me, why he's so distant. I'm screaming at him, you're so distant, you're so distant. You're always so guarded. And he proceeds to tell me he thinks he might be gay because he had affairs with some men in college. Well, it was a nightmare. and we were hysterical. And what can I tell you? The story's also going to go back and forth. So why I'm going to try to at least catch you up to where we are. We are where we are, that the honeymoon, and then I'm reflecting back on my balcony because the sky is all crimson colored and reminds me of the bullfight we went to in Spain. And the bullfight was when the matador cut off the bull's ear and he threw it into the crowd and it whacked me on the side of the head. And of course, Jeffrey laughed, the crowd looked, and I went home with a souvenir of blood on my face from a bull's ear. Not quite the souvenir I wanted, but that was the way it is. Hello, David. Thank you. So the next thing I'm going to do, and also my table of contents is interesting because as I went through my 15 handwritten journals, as I documented his entire illness, the preface says the journey begins. Chapter 1 is the honeymoon in Spain. Chapter 2, where I'm going to start reading from tonight, is called the fear factor. And I will tell you, when it comes to a fear factor, every one of you in life, 7 billion people in this world, are going to at some point be afraid of something. It may not be an illness. It may be something else. But fear is a natural reaction to something that your body doesn't want, that your mind can't handle, and you're just not able to deal with. My second chapter is called The Fear Factor, and it dates from 1971 to 1981. So in 1971, that's a 10-year period of time. I say, Dear Jeff, these are my diaries, remember? When I compiled my journals into this book, I had to go back and transpose it. So everything in this book is a letter to Jeff, as if he's here. Remember, Jeff? So I say, Dear Jeff, remember I said 1971 to 1981. Dear Jeff, what a beautiful day June 19th, 1971 was. You completed your master's degree in educational psychology from Albany State University, right on schedule. Yeah, you did. Those 2 years weren't easy, from 1969, let's say, to 1971 when he got his degree. Those 2 years were not easy, were they? You didn't like studying, and I hated my dental hygiene job at the Veterans Administration Hospital in Albany. Our proud parents, who'd known each other forever, beamed as you walked down the aisle to receive your diploma. Now we had to decide where to go for your doctorate degree. Do you remember our trip around the country to check out the universities? We went everywhere. We went everywhere. You finally decided on the University of Florida in Gainesville. You wanted to get your doctorate in special education with emotionally disturbed children, and I'd get licensed as a dental hygienist. It was August 1st, 1971. We packed up our belongings, said goodbye to our parents, and together followed our dream. You wanted to become Dr. Jeffrey A. Mintz. I can promise you, Jeff, I wanted you to become it more. Jeff, you tried to convince yourself you weren't gay. I know you were faithful to me during our 2 years in Albany, when you said you wanted our marriage to work, and you were straight. I truly believed you. And why shouldn't I? You were young and questioned your sexuality, just as I did. But I was angry and frustrated. I initiated most of our arguments. They weren't about adjusting to newly married life. My problems were more complicated, and I didn't want to face them. I was the complicated one, truly. Jeff had his issues, but my issues were very deep, and I only knew how to take them. I only knew how to vent by being very rude, abrupt, angry, hostile. To say the least, I was not a very nice person. Some people would question if I'm nice today. I would say, I am an angel compared to the way I was. And why was I so susceptible to urinary tract and vaginal yeast infections? I couldn't continue to blame the miscarriage for everything. You knew how much I hated going to the doctor's office, getting examined, and taking medications for weeks at a time. I was miserable, uncomfortable, and I resented you for causing my distress. I began to think that sexual intercourse was more of a detriment than a pleasure. I wonder how many women right now are thinking that way. But these infections were just the beginning of my sexual problems with you. Later on, several other diseases came along, affecting our sexual relationship. The choices I made to safeguard my health ultimately saved my life. Hi, Lucy. We weren't prepared for the difficulties and problems we'd encounter during the next 3 years. Gainesville wasn't the cosmopolitan, dynamic city we'd anticipated. We loved the warm, tropical climate of Florida, but it wasn't the city of our dreams. And you also have to remember that Gainesville back in 1971 and 72 and 4, it was a small town. It was a college town. It wasn't this big megalopolis of everything. It had doctors, it was great, it had restaurants, but it was a college town. And you have to realize that what Gainesville has become 40 years later, 50 years later, I mean, it really is a metropolis. Remember that Monday morning when I answered the phone and I was told the dentist I worked for had been burned in a fire. Now I was unemployed and we were living on your fellowship. It wasn't easy scaling back on an already limited budget. People's got to be able to go, you have got to be able to go through this and understand it. This has got to be so relatable. Eventually, I found work at the university answering the phone for the maintenance department. What a fulfilling career that was for a future doctor's wife. Think about that. Eventually, after all these hygiene degrees in New York, Massachusetts, Florida, eventually I found work, and the one job I liked, but the dentist, his ex-wife, burned the place down while he was in it. Eventually, I found work at the university, answering the phone for the maintenance department. What a fulfilling career that was for a future doctor's wife. During our first year in Florida, you tried to be, quote, straight, unquote, but it was hard. There was an active gay community in Gainesville, and you wanted, quote, your other life, end quote. You told me you were studying late, but I knew about the man you were meeting in the library. How many lovers did you have during the next 2 years? What did it matter? I didn't trust you any longer, and I resented your lies and infidelity. But I couldn't leave you. I focused. I was lasered on that degree and did whatever it took to help you achieve it. We also couldn't give up on each other. I don't know whether to keep going or not. I'm going to do a little more. You all better tell your friends. I don't care if you got one friend. You tell them. And if my friends are your friends, I don't care. Tell them at work. Tell them at school. I don't care what you do, but tell your friends. Even with all our problems, baby, we had fun. How many times did we anxiously await our parents' visits? We'd laugh because they were always a bit shaky after their shuttle flight from Jacksonville to Gainesville. In between our quarterly semester breaks, we would drive to Atlanta, Orlando, Savannah, New Orleans. You planned the most wonderful adventures to new and exciting cities, and we loved the warm, wonderful weather compared to Albany. We'd go to the beach every weekend. We rode our bikes to the Gator football games and ate lots of pizza. We faced financial problems, fought continuously about your late nights out, and dealt with many stressful situations. But, here's the but, I love reading. It makes me laugh. I make myself laugh, which is the most important thing. But on June 15th, 1974, you became Dr. Jeffrey A. Mintz, EDD. It was the most exciting summer of my life, and all our dreams had come true. I was married to the handsomest, most successful man in the world. Everything was going to turn out all right after all. Wasn't it, Jeff? And right there. So, we went to Gainesville, and finally, in Albany, he got his master's. I'm giving you all such a great history. Nobody will have to buy the book. If you wait me out 6 months to a year, you'll know it. So we got our master's in Albany, and then we went to Gainesville, and he finally got his doctorate. And in between, we were college kids. I mean, we were young. And by the time I was married, I was 22. And then by the time Jeff got his degree, I was 27. But we were still young, and the next adventure you'll have to stay tuned to. But it will be just that, an adventure. So, again, I hope you'll tell your friends. I hope you'll go on. I hope you will say, there's this lady in Boca Raton, Florida, who sits in front of her phone every night, reading from her book. She always says she doesn't have a clue what she's doing. She doesn't know what she's doing. She doesn't know how to hit the lights. She doesn't know how to prop up the phone. She doesn't know how to do anything. But the lady is continuing to do it. So I want to say, God bless you. And you know what I'm going to say at the end? Shalom. Hello? Shalom. Goodbye. And shalom. Peace. May you have a shalom night, and whatever you do, be kind. The world needs kindness now more than ever. Call up somebody instead of texting them. Boy, I'm glad I didn't grow up with text. I grew up with a phone. Call somebody. Tell them you love them. Tell them you miss them. Tell them you care. Tell them something that's going to make them feel good. Do you know how many times in my marriage, in my life, and to this day, I just call people and say, I just was thinking of you and wanted you to know I loved you, and everything's great. How are you? I'm going to finish this up now and say shalom. Bye, David. Bye, Lucy. I can't figure out the viewers. I really can't understand the viewers. It'll show 2 people on my Facebook page, and yet I have 39 people viewers, and not for me to figure out. I'm just reading my book. God bless you. Shalom.